Night gathers, and now our show begins. It shall not end until our deaths. We shall take no wives, hold no lands, father no children. We shall wear no crowns and win no glory. We shall live and die at our post. We are the swords in the darkness. We are the watchers on the walls. We are the shield that guards the realms of men. We pledge our lives and honor to RAZZLEcast for this night and all the nights to come. Howdy, boys. How are we doing today?
We're doing.
We're talking Game of Thrones
Go on
today.
that. You want us to follow that?
I'm Zach Maurer, and I'm joined by Alan Havens.
Hey,
Say
that's
hi, Alan.
me.
And Ryan Havens.
Of Dorne.
Hell yeah. And today we're talking Game of Thrones, if you can't tell. That was the second of two cringy intros that I did. The first one will be cut out. But that one was equally not equally as cringy, but also pretty cringy.
The other one, we didn't know what to say.
You didn't inform us.
It's hard to say anything. No, I didn't want to. I was hoping you would laugh or something. It was just silence.
I wasn't sure if you were done or if...
No, it didn't. I didn't.
You're gonna have to explain to people now.
So basically, I tried to do a whole intro, like just talking like Hodor, but like that's a lot harder than I give it credit for because he has to like inflect, and I didn't practice any of that. So that's
he was
fine.
like Hodor. We were just like, what the fuck is he saying?
It was.
And then he was like, "You guys can speak now."
I kind of want to just. I might just throw it in at the end so you guys can hear how bad it is, honestly. But today we're talking Game of Thrones. We're going to be very spoiler heavy. So if you guys have not caught up with Game of Thrones, please don't listen. I actually like. I hate saying that.
If this is the future,
save it and come back later.
If this is the future, we're only up to season 7.
But like seriously, don't listen. Come back and listen to us. Like play it on your phone or whatever device you're on, but just turn the volume down. But then like come back and actually listen to us. So we're talking Game of Thrones. Today we're going to talk Game of Thrones Season 7 discussion, as well as just sort of a general discussion of the show. We're going to give you our top 5 episodes, and we're also going to rank all of the seasons of Game of Thrones up until Season 7. Guys, I'm really excited to hop into this. We are less than a week away from Season 8.
Yeah.
And
we're really close.
I'm hype. I haven't let myself get hype until now.
Until right this second.
Yes. I got specifically hyped for this podcast. So
we did a lot of rewatching. I know me and Zach both rewatched season 7. So, just getting ready. We rewatched them this week, just getting ready for the upcoming week. I don't think Alan had
I watched a big recap thing, but I remember.
The North remembers.
No, the North remembers. Damn it. And we were all going to say it at the same time. Perfect. All right.
Edit it.
So guys, why don't we just like start off by giving our general thoughts of season 7 as a whole. So I'm going to start with you, Alan, actually.
Sure.
So give me like your general thoughts of season 7. And I'm sure we'll organically work in our thoughts on the show as a whole. As you can tell, we all like it. So
yeah, no, season 7 is it's not the best season, at least in my opinion. Season 7 is weird for me because it's somehow it's a lot of payoff. It tries to deliver on a lot of payoffs while still not fully reaching where I felt like the show needed to be to go into the final season. Like it somehow feels like there's too much in it. Like it was rushed too quickly, and also not enough happens because it still feels like there's so much that needs to happen to conclude the show. Like, so again, spoilers for everything up until season 7. So like, it feels like we needed to see more. So here's what I thought going into season 7 is I was like, okay, we know that the Night King's coming, and they promised when season 7 was starting, they're like, winter is here. But winter really isn't here for the majority of season 7. Like, they still have to go out, and until the final shot of season 7, the White Walkers haven't really invaded Westeros. They're still on the other side of the wall. So, for me, I think that it was weird because I think it didn't fully deliver on what I expected, but still was a good season, in short.
Okay. Ryan, what are your like brief thoughts on season 7?
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad season in all of Game of Thrones, but this isn't one of the best. But I still really enjoyed it. I agree with a lot of what Alan said. Like, it feels like the pacing of the season is really weird because you partially feel like you wanted more, but at the same time, everything kind of just went like super fast. Like, it'd be something like, "Oh, we're gonna send a raven," and like usually it's like, "Oh, this will take a bit of time," and then immediately after, look at the raven, like, or like, "Oh, we're traveling," like they'll travel and they'll get there like the next scene they'll already be at their next destination. The pacing is just jarring compared to the rest of the series where it really takes its time with each event, and it makes like you really feel like the distance between everybody, if you get what I'm saying. Like, nobody gets anywhere, like, you know, I don't know if that makes any sense, but no, altogether though, I thought there was a lot of great moments and a lot of great episodes. Personally, for me, I loved in rewatching it, and even when I first saw it, episode 4 of the Spoils of War, and that like was like honestly one of the best like action sequences with Drogon, like in the Lannister army and the Tarleys, like that whole sequence was so like epic and one of the coolest sequences, and like kind of like a heart stopped, like thinking that Jamie was going to die in that scene. Like, he was going to, you know, it really felt like it was going to go down that way, especially also because we expected a lot more deaths this season, a lot more like major deaths this season.
I do think it was a little cheap that he did survive, but that's...
Yeah, and that was a lot of, and again, I was gonna say that even at the end, but another episode that I really loved in the season was, and we'll get more in detail about this stuff. I believe it was season 3. Yeah, it must have been. It was season 3. Yeah, it was not season 3. I'm sorry, episode 3.
I was confused. I was like, why are we going into season 3?
One of my favorite episodes is The Reigns of Castamere, season 3. No, episode 3, The Queen's Justice, because I love that, like, the kind of bouncing back and forth of like the war tactics with Tyrion when he's describing the sewer system and how they were able to sneak in and how they were able to make it work at Casterly Rock, and then afterwards what Jamie had decided to do, and then like that whole thing, and then like when his final confrontation with Olenna, I thought was just like pure Olenna, the best way for Olenna to go out. So I really love that sequence. And then I guess what I would say, where was I? What you just had mentioned with the negatives. The conveniences. There's a lot of conveniences this season, which didn't really appear in any other season, which I thought was a little weird. Yeah. And I think one of the major conveniences was in the second to last episode. Yeah, second to last episode, Beyond the Wall. And how it just, everything kind of just like wraps up a little too nicely for me. I still thought it was an awesome episode, an awesome scene, but it just, the way that like...
Is that when they send...
Gendry
Gendry
runs all the way back, and then not only does he make it all the way back before anything happens, and they do indicate that they had been sitting there for a while, like for a long while, because they're just waiting for the ice to freeze. But so it could have been any amount of time, but like for the amount of time for Gendry to get there, to get all the way back to the wall, then them to send a raven, like. And then, like, for Daenerys to answer it and then fly all the way to the north, the far north, and then locate them exactly as everything's going on in the pinnacle moment. It was a little too convenient for me, but it's still kind of a cool scene otherwise. But just some things like that. It feels like some of the writing was a little lazier because they had less time and they were trying to do a lot more. So... that's my long thoughts.
So Zach, you asked for our brief thoughts. We both gave you tangents.
That's perfect.
Go ahead.
Honestly, that's perfect. I tend to agree with both of you. I feel like the way that I would describe it is, I feel like even though this season brought us the 2 longest episodes, I think, in the show history with the Dragon and the Wolf, and maybe even Beyond the Wall. I'm not sure. It might maybe just the Dragon and the Wolf, but
Beyond the Wall was an hour and 10.
Okay, so it was definitely then just the Dragon and the Wolf, because I think Battle of the Bastards is longer than Beyond the Wall.
The Dragon and the Wolf was an hour 20. I'll fact check Battle of the Bastards.
Anyway, even though it gave us long episodes,
Battle of the Bastards was only 1 hour. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, okay. So it was the 2 longest episodes in the series history. I did feel as though the season sort of felt truncated. It felt like some things were, I don't want to say cut out, but I'm going to say rushed. I do agree with you guys on that aspect. And I would say that despite the Spoils of War, which I think is an all-around great episode, this season for me is more just moments over actual like
Sure.
episodes of television. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not saying they're not clear and distinct stories, but I'm saying that for me it's more these moments stick out. Like, there are absolutely excellent moments in the show. There's a really wonderful scene in the first episode. It's just like a montage of Sam working at the Citadel, and I think it's some of the best editing.
Scene.
Really, I love that.
It's fine.
It's like gross, but I think
No,
it adds like levity and everything. I enjoy it. Like,
it does its purpose. It's trying to like, it's just doing a kind of swift monologue, like a swift like passage of time, and you see the routine of his everyday life and the monotony of it all. I understand it. I just hate it because it's gross.
Oh, it's really gross. It's so gross.
Like, I was eating when I was rewatching it. Like, I was eating lunch and that scene came on. I literally had to skip it. I was like, I remember the scene. Fuck it, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's disgusting, but
it's a well edited scene. It's just
as well as like the moment in the first episode where Arya has poisoned all of the Freys. That's a great moment as well. There's a bunch of really great moments, but I'm not sure the whole season as a whole is as great as the others. But I do agree with you, Ryan. I don't feel there's a bad season of Game of Thrones. Like, I'm not going to say that there's ever a season in this show that is necessarily bad. So let's talk more broad in a sense. So we've sort of discussed our brief thoughts about what's good and bad. Like, let's harp on let's go to like what our negatives probably would be. Let's talk about that thing that you said where it does sort of feel rushed because of actions not taking as long. I entirely agree. That is such a big part of the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones where like why am I cutting to this character, and why is it 2 episodes later that we're seeing that storyline continue? And I always thought that was interesting. It kept you on your toes, but it also, I think, made Westeros feel like a real place.
Yeah, it made Westeros feel like huge, and like when you go somewhere, like it's not like nothing is instant. It takes like a significant amount of time for you to deliver information, and the way information is just spread in general, I just find it way more interesting altogether. And there's like consequence to being somewhere. You know what I mean? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was like it's a big thing for me this season, because I feel like watching other seasons, like if you binging and you get to this season after binging all the other seasons, it'll feel weird because of how
it does.
Yeah, and I can see how they somewhat had to, because they're trying to wrap things up, but like also they're choosing to end it in 2 seasons, so they had to plan for that. So I see why they had to make these conveniences, because they are trying to tell their story, but it is very disjointed, and it's very it's tough, because it's like, do I want to see them sacrifice their vision for the story for the fact of where it makes sense with everything? It's not just about how it makes sense, because it's not just like a plot it's not just like that bugs me, like, because it's sort of different. It's like, it really is almost off-putting.
Oh no,
it is off-putting.
I think in a way it can affect. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to.
But it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't want them to like make choices for the sake of like just plot necessarily, or make conveniences for plot, but also like I want them to be able to tell the story they want to tell, and if they didn't have anything to happen in between the time that the Raven was being sent and they wanted to tell that episode, like, I'm just specifically talking about the penultimate of the season, what would you, I mean, do we want to see that dragged out if they don't have anything to tell? It's tough to say. So I agree, and I do agree. There's a lot of issues I think that I have with this season. Issues are weird, because to me, I think that this show is one of the best shows ever created. So when I talk about issues, most of the time there are things like this where it's like, I don't really know how they could actually improve it, because they still gave us a great episode in Beyond the Wall, in my opinion. But there are conveniences that don't mesh with the rest of the show. So it's kind of like a great standalone episode when you don't put it in with the rest of the show, because if they use these conveniences all the time, I feel like it wouldn't feel so disjointed. It'd just be that part of the universe.
Right.
Though I think it is better in previous seasons, because I think that sort of passage of time, as Ryan was saying, kind of adds to the world.
And I think the passage of time at times can be important to understanding character motivations. So I was rewatching this season 7, and I found myself questioning specifically why Sansa was so bothered by Jon leaving the North. And I just kept thinking, well, it's not like he's gone for that long, but he is. The fact of the matter is he's actually gone for months, more than months, possibly. I mean, he has to travel across the continent multiple times. And I just thought to myself that that doesn't, obviously, if you think about it, it doesn't actually negatively affect the character motivation, but for a moment, I'm like, it's not that big of a deal, like in my head.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, he's
I do
across
think
the country. Like,
yeah.
he was not even close to them. And I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's just one thing, but I do think that the rushed aspect can be looked at as a negative. I know. What do you think about them moving the show to 7 episodes? I think that if they felt it was better to do that rather than to have filler episodes, then I'm fine with it. I don't know what you guys think. I saw a lot of people online were having, when that was announced originally, they were having a bunch of issue with it not being 10 episodes or whatever.
Well, I mean, as we were saying, the show did feel rushed, and maybe the extra episodes would have helped, but it's tough to say because we don't know what would have took the place. You know, obviously we could have dragged out some of these things that we would have liked to have seen make more sense with the world, but also what would be replacing it? If we're getting great television, then fuck, give me 20 episodes. But if we're giving great television that is important, give me that. But from the fact that they made it 7 episodes, I'm guessing that they didn't have 10 episodes or whatever worth of content to give us. So, on one hand, it felt rushed, so I want there to be more episodes, but then again, I don't know what would have filled time for those episodes. So it's a weird trade-off. So I kind of gave you a non-answer.
No, that makes sense.
Your thoughts, Ryan? On the shortening the episodes?
I agree with everything you said. There's not a lot I can add to that. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Alan, please.
I was going to say, one of the negatives I had came towards the end. Reminders again that we're doing spoilers. Is I didn't like how Littlefinger's death was handled, as well as I didn't like the teasing us and telling us and faking the whole Arya and Sansa thing. I found that kind of, I didn't like it that much, and I liked Littlefinger's character. I felt like it might have been the death he deserved, but it just didn't feel like it had the weight that it should have. And the faking us out on the Sansa and Arya thing was just, I don't know. It just felt kind of too almost convenient. I don't know. It just felt dumb. I don't mean like as far as Game of Thrones can be dumb, because I still think it's Game of Thrones, but I didn't like it by comparison to how they've handled other deaths in the show, I guess is the way to put it.
I liked the way that he died. I thought that actually felt fitting, having him try to weasel his way out at the last second. Also, and then right at the last second, be like begging for his life. Yeah. I think that was a death that he
fitting to
deserved. It was fitting to his character. Personally, though, I agree with you on like how it was handled with Arya and Sansa's storyline. Like, the show basically lied to us, which I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's happened before in the show, if I like really think back on it and like have them like straight up say like have us like lying to us. Usually we're in on what's happening. And I found myself being on the second rewatch, found myself being annoyed with like, oh, okay, well, this whole thing's just fake anyway. What does it matter? Like, so I don't know. Ryan, what do you think about Littlefinger's death and the build up to it?
Well, I actually have a bit of a problem altogether with that storyline, and I think you made a good point when you were talking about it just a little bit ago, with just how they handle like with the conflict with Jon and Sansa and everybody. I feel like it just nothing felt like the process of everything just didn't feel like fully fulfilled. Like I think they spent a lot of time with Lord Baelish and like trying to kind of like show how he was trying to leave a lasting impression and trying to manipulate Sansa throughout the entire season. And I thought they did a decent job of that. And then Sansa, of course, by the end, you can tell that she did learn from him to an extent, but she didn't fall for his shit. Like, she's smarter than that, and he underestimated her. So I thought, like, his whole thing, I thought felt just, and I liked the way they ended him, and I thought it was kind of the best way to do it. Especially, I think, in his last scene where he was trying to kind of, like, cycle through his
usual playbook.
Yeah. Of trying, like, and he was getting desperate, and he's using, he tries to use all of his different tricks, and he's just right in front of them, and it's all failing, and he's desperate. So I thought, like, altogether, what they did with his character was pretty good, and I thought it was time for him to die. I thought that was the right way for him to die. So I don't know. That's how I feel about Baelish's storyline.
Okay, excellent. So we've sort of touched upon the Starks in Winterfell. Let's move on to Jon Snow's storyline. And I guess we'll sort of hop from like storyline main storyline to main storyline here. What do you guys' thoughts on Jon Snow's storyline? How it has intermingled now with the Daenerys storyline and whatnot?
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think about that?
So one of the biggest things about season 7 is that they confirmed the thing that the internet had been talking about for a while, and in his lineage, and him being, half Targaryen, half Stark, is that really the way of putting it? I don't know. But do you consider yourself I don't really consider myself half my mom's side and half my dad's side, but I don't know. I digress. But confirming his lineage, confirming his that Daenerys is his aunt, and that sort of thing.
They did, and they also confirmed it last season.
They didn't officially. I didn't think they
at the end of the last
at
episode.
At the end of season 6, they did confirm that he was a Targaryen.
You're right. Yeah. Well, then in this season, they have them bang
to us and to
and Bran. I guess that's true. But I guess having Sam find out this season and then having them, as Alan put it, bang. Yes.
By the end, like literally right after. Bran and Sam are talking right after. So
yeah, he's like, yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that character relationship? Because that was a big part of the season, and that's what they spent a lot of their time was developing a relationship between Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, and kind of showing how similar they are and how different they are in other ways. How do you guys feel like they did with that stuff?
So I think through my original watch through when it was airing live, I really wasn't that into it. On a rewatch, I found there are some really nice and tender moments between the two, as well as moments that I think showcase both of their power really nicely. One of my favorite moments that I just saw about 2 hours ago was rewatching The Dragon and the Wolf, and it's right after Jon has told Cersei that he has already bent the knee to Daenerys and that he won't give up. Jon is walking and holding onto a baby dragon skull, and Daenerys comes over, and they share a really nice moment. And it was in that moment that I started to really buy their relationship. But before that, and throughout my first watch through, I wasn't a giant fan. But I think that they showcased both of their strengths well and both of their sort of emotional weaknesses well throughout the whole season. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I still ship Daenerys and Jorah. No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree with you. I actually really liked it. I don't know if I disliked it the first time. I actually thought it was fine the first time, and even on this watch, I was like, I agree with a lot of what you said. You just kind of noticed some of the more intricate details about their relationship and their kind of mutual respect for one another, and how that grows. You can kind of see it as it goes along. I thought it was really well handled. I liked just their relationship in general. I wish that there was a way we could have done it. I understand, like, we needed to have them together for a long period of time to make because he needed to convince her enough about the White Walkers and the Walking Dead, without showing her beforehand. So they needed to have them spend time together as well as make their relationship work.
Right.
So I feel like they did a really good job, like kind of trying to still make it kind of dynamic, because they needed to make it a reason why she would fly out to the far north, while everything else is going on, when she's been
not going to
spending the
make
last
that
10 seasons or 6 seasons before this.
right. She's not going to make that risk if they don't build that up. So.
Yeah. One scene I didn't like in particular in the season, which I thought was a little, because I'm watching it this time around. I'm trying to watch like almost pretending like I don't know, like I'm from Daenerys' point of view, and I've never seen any of the White Walkers or anything. And when he first describing it, like obviously she's thinking like this guy's a fucking madman, and everyone does. Even Tyrion's like, fuck, he's like, I don't think you're mad, but what are you saying? I vouched for you to come down.
Right.
One scene I didn't like much was the cave drawing scene. I thought that was interesting. Like when they're going through the cave to mine the dragon glass, and he's like, "Oh, look, we discovered these markings in the wall from even older before any of us existed." And they were he was walking through and showing them different cave drawings. Yeah. And then there was the drawings of the White Walkers. Like there was just like 3 of them, just like just drawn super well. I'm not denying that this would happen, that these ancient people would draw these enemies of an ancient time that they had to fight. But I think the thing that is like weird to me is I feel like when she went in there, she'd be like, "You motherfuckers just drew this."
Right.
Like that's the first thing I thought. Like when she saw it, I would just be like, "Okay,
like, how dumb do you think I am?"
Like literally, you guys have been in here. I'm seeing this for the first time. It's not like I'm walking in here with you for the first. Like if that would have been one way, if like they're walking and they discovered it, but like the fact that he like kind of shows, he's like, "Look, it's proof." See, and it's like I feel like the first thing she would say is, "Well, this is pretty fucking convenient, isn't it?" Like. What the fuck are you showing me? Did you guys just draw this to try to convince me? Like, I don't know. Because she also doesn't like know them super well, but they do because it's been like a long time. But it's not really
handled as well.
That's true. We have to remember it's been like months.
We're gonna keep going back to complaining about that. But no, that was just like the one. I remember when I rewatched that scene, I was just like, "What motherfucker?" Like, as soon as she saw that, she'd be like, "Y'all, so y'all motherfuckers just drew that on the wall, and you're not trying to convince me." Like. That wouldn't convince her. Like that. After that, she was just like, "Oh, okay, hold on now. This shit maybe is real." Like,
right.
But I don't know. That was just me. I remember watching that scene. I was just like, "Come on."
So, if you don't mind, I was gonna give my thoughts on Daenerys and Jon. If
Please,
that's cool.
yeah,
I will. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm different. I don't know that. I actually mean it very much literally. I don't know how to feel about it because like. On one hand, like I like their chemistry together. I mean, like I like what they're doing in the show, and I'm excited about it. But also, like on the other hand, it's like it's Oedipus. It's like kind of fucked. And like I feel like when I see it happen, I'm kind of like that's kind of fucked. Like, so I'm watching it. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. But like I think that like maybe I'm not supposed to be feeling that way. Maybe I'm supposed to be like, it's fine. It's like, and it's like it's kind of like because like it's not the same as Jaime and Cersei because they're siblings, but also and they know, but like also on the other hand, like I just kind of get this like pit in my stomach that's kind of like, oh, when they find out, that's gonna be like kind of fucked, and they're gonna be like, oh, that's kind of fucked, and like he's gonna stab his own eyes out. It's a Oedipus reference. It's like on one hand it's like I kind of like it and I like their dynamic together, but on the other hand it's like I kind of get this like pit in my stomach, like, and I'm sure they're going to deliver on it because characters are aware that this is the case. So it's just like I don't know, I kind of don't know how to feel about their thing. Like on one hand I'm like I kind of ship them because they're kind of cute together and they're the guys I'm supposed to be rooting for, but on the other hand it's like that's kind of fucked, as I've said multiple times.
Yeah. I don't think it bothers. I don't know. I don't think about that really. Like when I watch it, that I don't know. It's weird because like the Jaime and Cersei thing is so out in the open and so prevalent. I think I don't know how I don't have that thought for some reason when watching the show that you just brought up. I don't know why that is. Because it's very clear that she is his aunt. We know that now, but they don't know that, and I guess it's not weird in a Targaryen bloodline. It's not weird to have these sort of incestual relationships, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean I feel that that's definitely the world of the show. I mean, look, listen, one of my favorite shows is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where a 200-year-old vampire sleeps with a 16-year-old girl, and that's totally fine. So it's going to depend on how the show wants to handle it. It just felt like if they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's his aunt and they're together, like they're gonna do something with that because they're gonna find out, and it's gonna be interesting how they play on it. It's just like for me, like in my like I know for a lot of people it's like they sleep together and it's like a fist pump moment, and for me it's like, oh no, they don't know. Like that's kind of the feeling I get like deep down, and maybe I'm alone, or maybe
So I think that means the show did its job.
I think so. I'm not mad. I'm not saying I'm upset with
Yeah,
the
that's
show.
what the whole time I'm talking about. Like I was talking about like how the show handled the relationship. Like,
yeah,
to
I was
me-
giving my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah, on a different thing, I guess. But,
yeah. Okay, so you're giving like your
Yeah.
I thought we were. Never mind. Go ahead.
So yeah, that was just my thoughts on that. Like I said, I like their dynamic throughout the thing, and I didn't watch the season somewhat recently, so I can't go more specific than that. But
Right.
that was sort of my thoughts.
So let's hop on over to the two characters we discussed. Let's talk Cersei and King's Landing, and how that storyline is being handled. So, for sort of placement, Cersei is currently the queen, and she is ruling over King's Landing. Jaime is her commander, her lover, and Qyburn is her hand of the queen. So Ryan, how do you think Cersei's storyline and the Lannister storyline, excluding Tyrion, you can include Tyrion if you'd like, is being handled? How do you feel about that?
I like it overall in this season. That was one of my favorite storylines. I love how they're handling Jaime specifically in this season.
Yes.
But I'll start off talking about Tyrion. I like how Tyrion is. I'll talk about Tyrion as well, because I think Tyrion, they do an excellent job as well. That he's super conflicted, especially now that they're in Westeros, and like I think he's been kind of dreading the moment of watching his own men and his family destroying his family, because he's been fighting all the way up until when he left. He had been fighting to keep the Lannister name alive, even though Cersei is in her deluded mind doesn't believe that. He's done everything to this point to keep it alive, until he's now been forced to be against them and follow somebody that he believes in, and he's chosen someone to follow. So I thought they've done a good job of like, not only that, but like the fact that he has failed a few times. He doesn't want to just go in and burn down King's Landing and just burn all the people, but that's not only for his personal reasons, but it also kind of works in because he doesn't want like just everything to just be destroyed. Obviously, it's for the strategic reasons for Daenerys and why he's chosen to follow her, and obviously that was going to be the case. But I also find it's interesting, especially in that episode 4, when he's watching Jaime's army fight against her and watching the dragons. You see, as he's watching, he's just in total shock of everything, and you could tell that he's very conflicted about everything that's happening. And he's been very conflicted altogether, even though he knows what he has to do and who he has. Which side he's not debating which side he's on. But I think that also comes full circle in his last conversation with Cersei in the last episode, which I thought was handled super well as well. Tyrion is also just a super good character. I also like what they're doing with Jaime, and I think what they're doing with Jaime is how he's also super conflicted altogether, and kind of the choice he makes at the last episode. He loves Cersei, he's loved her his whole life, and now that she's pregnant, he can have another child that he also can love because he's loved all of his children. And he's kind of on this kind of like edge of like the acceptance of how Cersei doesn't care anymore if people know that she's, even though it's kind of already known to the world. She doesn't care how open it is anymore, and she's willing to tell people because he clearly loves her and she loves him. But she is just on a whole new level of just kind of like spite and crazy, and just she's on Maleficent level of just like, you know what I mean? Like, she is just like too far gone, and he sees that. And they have even the scene. Who is it that speaks? Olenna even says to him, like, she's going to be the death of you or whatever.
Yeah. I think Olenna at one point says she's a disease, I think.
Yeah, she's a disease. Yeah. Something along those lines. So I love the confliction in him. And then by the end, he kind of cracks when he's like, oh, I'm on board with doing what's right, going north and fighting these with the other humans. He has a level of respect, and Jamie, to an extent, since season 1 has changed, because I rewatched episode 1 as well. I rewatched a couple episodes throughout the series, and I rewatched episode 1. He's so different. It's crazy.
Jamie's arc is great,
insane. So, and I think he's finally cracked in that last episode of the season when he says, I'm just going to go north anyway and fight with the other living. And Cersei's like, you're not going to leave. No one walks away from me. And she almost has the mountain kill him, but he's like, you're not gonna do that, and then he leaves and she lets him go. And then obviously what they're doing with Cersei is that she's just like kind of on the deep end, and she's in desperate territory of trying to keep herself and the ones that she loves alive at any costs. I don't know, I'm just super into it.
I totally agree. Alan, can you give me your thoughts on the Lannister storyline?
So, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, like my favorite character in the entire show is Cersei. I think that she's awesome, and I loved seeing her. I'd watch an entire show just on Cersei. I think for me, this is sort of a little bit off track, but for me, this show, the best thing about this show has been the villain characters, sans Night King. But like, you know, the Ramsays, the Joffreys, the
sorry, I thought you said Sam's.
No,
Night
Sam.
King, like Samuel Tarly's Night King. I was like, what?
Sam.
Yeah, Sam loves the Night King. He's
trying to sound smart. No, but so I loved seeing her stuff. I have loved seeing, even though Jaime's no longer really villainous, his arc has probably been one of the best arcs on the show, long running at least. You know, for being from as far as he's gone. You know, Daenerys has had a good arc. You know, but I think that he's had one of the best ones just from start to end, as Ryan was talking about before. Yeah, I like this. I think it's one of the better parts of I don't have a lot more to add than what you had said, Ryan. Unfortunately, even though I love this character and this family, even though I love to hate them is kind of the thought. I like the villain characters. I think that they bring something extra to the show, and I like when they shake things up. I loved the meeting between them and everyone else, and Cersei's just kind of like, oh well, they'll be at the north first, and we'll deal with what's left. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I think that there's a lot to like in the entire thing, and for me, I always looked forward to seeing Cersei and the Lannisters on screen. Tyrion is Tyrion. Tyrion's like consistently one of the best parts of the show, and I was excited to see him, you know, sort of reunite with some of the people, reuniting with Podrick and Bronn?
Sir Bronn of the Blackwater.
Yes.
Blackwater.
Yep. Yes. Reuniting with them was also cool to see him interacting with these characters. Reuniting with Jon this season as well, who we hadn't seen him talk to since season 1.
Snox and Grunkins.
I think it was cool. I think it was cool. Realistically, one of the best parts about this season was just bringing everyone kind of together and sort of giving it almost that season 1 feel where things were a little bit less spread out.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Again, it was all sort of covered. I think that I am consistently... we're just consistently rewarded as viewers whenever Jaime is on the screen. I find his story to be so interesting, and so I think his arc is so giant, and I every time, I also think this is sort of a different thought. I'm sort of just rambling now, but every time Tywin is mentioned, I find it interesting what his children had taken away from his time on the earth. And Cersei and Tyrion and Jaime all wrapped into one is such a great a great leader who has such great abilities. Cersei has this knowledge of money, and she has this sort of wrath that I think can be important, but Jaime has the exact militaristic aspects that Tyrion does sort of lack. Tyrion is a great hand and an excellent advisor, but we've seen time and again that he's not the most incredible militaristic mind.
Blackwater would like to have a word with you.
Yes, but you could argue that his dad saved Blackwater also. I don't know. I agree that Blackwater was a big thing, but you know, all he did was find Wildfire.
Zach's got beef with Tyrion.
I love Tyrion. I just think that I think the Lannister dynamic is so
hear you.
incredibly interesting. I'm so with you there that the villains are such an important part of the show, but the Lannisters themselves, from ebbing and flowing, like Cersei is so clearly this demented, spiteful, rage-fueled villain now, but the way that Tyrion and Jaime have morphed, I think, is one of the most interesting dynamics of the entire show. So another thing, you mentioned the little moments like Tyrion meeting Podrick and Bronn and stuff like that. And I think that this season is so ripe with those. I really, really appreciate that. Like when Tyrion meets up with Jon again, that's a really great moment as well. And I know you mentioned that. But it was Jaime seeing Brienne for a second and Brienne going, fuck loyalty. And I just think that was so powerful coming from Brienne's mouth, because her entire existence in this show has been about keeping oaths. And it just, I think this next season is going to be very exciting because we're going to get to see all these people really shining in each other's company. And I think that is one of my favorite things about Game of Thrones is those character interactions. So that's really what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of like payoff too,
yes.
Or at least it has to be. And if it's not a lot of payoff, it'll be disappointing. So that's the other thing I think to look forward to in this upcoming season as well. I'm super excited. I've also been kind of trying to avoid trailers other than that one we talked about, just because I'm like, I know I'm going to watch it when I get there. I've been kind of keeping myself busy with other things, but I'm excited to see what this season has in store for us.
Yeah, me too. Do we have any final thoughts here before we sort of kick it off to our next topic, guys?
Yeah, just to the thing you were just saying, where you were talking about like Brienne's growth, and I think it's really a testament to the writing of this show. From the show writers as well as George R.R. Martin for the books, and just that like every action that happens in this show feels true to character. I can't think of a single action where I'm like, no, Cersei wouldn't do that, or Tyrion wouldn't do that, or like that. It just feels completely out of left field. I think that everything has felt really well progressed, and everyone's arc feels so natural. It's crazy because it's like they do end up going on arcs where Jaime ends up being a completely different person from season 1, but none of it feels unnatural. And I think none of the show, in terms of characters, has felt unnatural. And I think that that's an awesome testament to what I believe is season 8 pending going to be one of the best shows of all time.
Definitely. Ryan, any last thoughts? I know you probably kind of wrapped up there a little bit, but
no, I don't. I'm good.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right, boys. Well, let's get into a little bit of ranking here. I love making lists and I love ranking, and I know that Ryan does as well. So let's break out our ranking pens, or because that's something everyone has. And let's rank the seasons of Game of Thrones. So there's been 7 seasons. We obviously cannot count season 8 because we haven't seen it. So, Alan, would you like to give me your ranking of the Game of Thrones seasons?
Gosh, I'm going to pitch that we do this a little bit different, and I'm going to do it spur of the moment, but we don't have to if we don't want to.
Okay.
I think it might be fun if we all start from the bottom and just work our way up all together, but I don't know if you guys want to do that.
Why
We could just
not?
all give our number 7, then we talk about it. I'll give our number 6, talk about it. I'm sorry I'm doing that to you guys like spur of the moment.
I love it. Let's do it.
We don't have to do it that way.
No,
if that doesn't
please.
work. Okay. So then I'll start us off then with what I believe is season, number 7, the quote unquote worst season of the show. And what I picked for my 7th best season of Game of Thrones was season 5. I don't know if we'll talk about it, especially if you guys have similar to me.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
Okay.
So let's do Ryan. You want to give your
my quote unquote worst season in Game of Thrones history is also season 5.
And my worst season of a great show is season 5. So we all have the same worst season.
Yeah, and I think that this isn't too much of a shock. I think a lot of people probably put season 5 there. I think that Game of Thrones is a show that doesn't really have a bad season,
But if you were ever to make a case that a season was meh, I would say season 5 would be that season, solely because a lot of it feels like setup. But I still think it's still good. It still has
We
great
still get
episodes.
Hard Home out of this
Yeah.
season, which is one of the best episodes. But this season feels a lot like setup, and it's still good, important stuff. Like I think in a lot of this season, what I enjoyed was just getting to hate Ramsay Bolton even more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of daunting scenes with him throughout this
Runs
season.
a little long though.
But what I think I like also is it makes the payoff in the next season, particularly with the Battle of the Bastards, just feel so much better. And it makes that season... I actually enjoyed season 5 more after watching season 6, because season 5 so directly is just setting up the alley for the oop, for season 6, where it's slammed down in season 6. But yeah.
I think that in a vacuum, if it's like you're doing a whole vacuum of Game of Thrones, this is clearly the worst season. But there are, we've said this before and I'll say it again, there are no bad seasons of this show. To me, this is the season in which we spend a lot of time in Dorne, and I think Dorne is very boring. I also think the actresses that play the Sand Snakes are not good. And
it's just rare in this show.
Yeah, which is rare. And a lot of the Arya storyline doesn't really work for me either.
Yeah, I was just about to say, the Arya storyline is just...
It's a lot of stick fighting and sweeping, or
mopping.
Or
yeah,
it was. You know what they should have done with Arya here? They should have just done a quickly, tightly edited montage of. I was making a joke because of what we said earlier. Samwell Tarly.
Only if it was really gross, though. I would have only accepted it if it was really gross. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you go.
I was just gonna say that, I like Arya as a character, and it was really cool. Hopping back to season 7 for a second, it was really cool seeing Arya reunite with everyone. But this storyline to me just wasn't that interesting when it was going on, because she wasn't doing anything particularly interesting. I think that's what the issue is. And they spent quite a bit of time on it.
Yeah, so my things similarly. I believe Arya is boring. I think Dorne is pretty boring. I think that this season really is major with the Sparrows, the Faith leader people, and they overstay their welcome big time. I think that they were an interesting idea that end up going on for way too long, and thankfully there is a good payoff.
The Sparrows are the flu in The Walking Dead.
Yes, they so overstay their welcome, and to me, I think the only real plus in season 5, because I think that Daenerys' stuff isn't really that great either. Jon Snow's story is the biggest plus of it all. I'm just not a huge White Walker fan, just generally.
Yeah, to me, I'm just gonna say this right off the bat, and I think Alan feels the same way. He just said it. The White Walker stuff to me has always been the least interesting. Part of Game of Thrones. I still enjoy it. And it's still fun, and the looming threat. Even when I rewatched the first episode, just seeing, in that first scene, it's cool, and I love the kind of idea of it, and how it's kind of it's been this looming threat that we have known about as viewers for a long time, and we've just been kind of waiting for something to happen with it. I find that stuff sort of interesting, but to me, it's always been the politics with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I agree.
So I always felt like the White Walkers were some of the more boring elements, but there's still some amazing White Walker elements, like Hard Home. And in my opinion, I think it's just a sick episode.
Certainly great fight scenes,
unexpected,
because of the things like in Hard Home.
Yeah. The just to touch upon what you guys talked about briefly, the White Walkers are my least favorite part of the show. I definitely agree with you that they're probably the thing I am least interested in, but I enjoy watching the way different characters react to the news of the White Walkers, like how Jon reacts, and how that's the only thing Jon focuses on, and it's very clear that he just wants to save everyone, or how Cersei reacts and how it's not really something she cares that much about.
She sees the White Walkers the same as she sees Daenerys and Jon.
Right.
They're the same. They're her enemies, so she sees them on the same level, where everybody else, including Jaime, which is, and that's, like I said, that last scene where he's arguing with her is he thinks she's nuts because like, what are you talking about? Why are we trying to like this is life or death. It is living versus dead, and Cersei is just so blind to that. She just sees it as enemies. She's like, we'll deal with one of them as soon as they kill each other.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
she doesn't care who wins.
She doesn't care. She wants them to fight each other, and then she'll just do what she needs to at the end. That's what I enjoy from the White Walkers is watching how the characters react. But I don't really care about an actual zombie army.
Most dissatisfying ending for this show would be if the Night King is the one on the throne at the end.
Yeah.
I think literally you could put anybody else on the throne at the end of the show, and it would be more satisfying
than the Night King.
I don't think that would ever happen. So
I'm just saying like that's probably the most likely not one of the main people, but I don't think it will either. But I'm just saying that I believe would be the most dissatisfying.
I'm with you on that.
We ready to move on to our number 6 season?
Yeah, what's your number 6 season, Alan?
My second worst favorite season, or my 6th favorite season, depending on how you want to word it, is season 7. I think we went to Ryan next before.
Yep.
For me, it's also season 7.
And I'm right there with you guys. Season 7 is my 6th favorite, or my 6th season of Game of... I don't know. It's season 7.
Still liked this season. It's still a good, like, we don't talk about it too much, but like, it's like I said, I don't think this is a bad season. So it just is a testament to how good the rest of the series has been.
Yeah, it's rushed a little bit, and it doesn't fit. We talked a lot about season 7, so there's not much to say here, but it's just, the rushing of it and how it, doesn't feel in tune with the rest of it, with the rest of the show. But it's a lot of payoff episodes.
I still thoroughly enjoyed my rewatch of it this last week. So
yeah, I rewatched. Obviously, I rewatched all of it. And this past week, and it just kept getting me more and more excited for Game of Thrones. It brought back so many feelings and memories of watching the series for the first time, and it's a great television show. It's just this happens to be my second to least favorite season. So, Alan, what is your 5th season for Game of Thrones?
My 5th favorite, or my 3rd worst, depending on how you want to do it, is season 1.
All right.
But I would probably call it my 5th favorite rather than my 3rd worst.
Excellent.
I like season 1. Ryan?
Mine, it was season 2.
Alrighty, and mine was season 2 as well.
Oh, wait, no. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Psych! It's actually season 1, not season 2.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I looked at the wrong list on the notes here.
No worries.
I just kind of I just autopiloted that. No, mine is season 1 also.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do is we'll each give our own things. Zach, you'll talk about season 2.
Or why don't we just talk about let's just talk about season 1, I guess, first.
Yeah, we'll talk about season 1, and then I can tell you that my season 1 is next. So that's my 4th season.
Okay.
So
well, we're all similar on this thing then, because season 1, to me, I love season 1. I kind of wanted it higher. I had more appreciation for some other seasons on here, but to me, season 1 holds a special place in my heart. Ned's death, again, spoilers, guys, is to me, I watched the show late and I still didn't know that was going to happen. So I had no idea. So when it happened, I think, Ryan, you were showing me the show, and I was like, what the fuck?
We watched it the first time. I watched like half the season, then we started watching it together from the beginning.
I thought you knew beforehand. Okay, so
I did know about it. I knew about it,
but I was like, what the? This is the character. This is the through line. I was so caught off guard. It changed the way that I was going to view the show for the rest of the show, and I would still be surprised by things later. Still, but to me, that episode, the second to last, it's episode 9, Baylor. Is that how you pronounce it?
Baylor.
Baylor was the episode that I knew I was going to be hooked on this show.
Yeah, I think also just Ned's death in general, like whenever they talk about him, especially in these later seasons, they talk about his impact, like the characters talk about it. Like I still like tear up, like think like the impact of his character in just one season is still felt 7 seasons in. It's nuts. I love what they've done, what they did with his character, and kind of also what they did with Rob's character, which we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about him later. throughout this entire season. I'm not really going to shit on this season because I think at this point, a lot of these seasons going up, it's not really about complaints. It's just that I liked the other ones better. Because I'm just going to say it also, and I'm sure I've said it before, Game of Thrones so far is like my favorite TV show I've ever watched. It blows me. It's blown me away time and time again. So like I was able to find complaints, a lot of stuff for like season 5 and season 7. But it's not as easy going from this point up. Like these are kind of like, but
some of the best of the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things. I like how, as you were saying earlier when we were talking about season 7, how everyone is kind of together here to start everything off in Winterfell, and I thought that was interesting. A great way to introduce the characters and their relationships and how they feel about each other before splitting them off. Yeah, there's a lot of great moments in the season 2. Just it's crazy. I rewatched the first episode. How far all of the characters have come since. All the characters are so different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and as I was saying before, I feel like it feels so natural. Sorry, Zach.
No, I totally agree. Now I'll talk about season 1, but that is my fourth, my number 4 season. Season 1 to me is obviously, this is gonna sound so dumb because it is, but it's obviously where we all started. Baelor is one of my favorite episodes in all of the show. I think Ned's death, and similar to what Ryan was saying, is so impactful. Ned is, I think, if I had to rank it, still probably one of my favorite characters in the entire show. Sean Bean plays him so incredibly well, and you can feel his effect on the entire show. There are very touching moments in season 7, and it's really great. The way that why I think I like season 1 so much is that they were able to create the world and make the world feel so real and lived in, and at the same time that they're giving us a show that's essentially about Ned, they're also giving us a second show that's about Daenerys. And I think that while the show feels so very different, I enjoy how it still feels like it's the same part of the world. I think they did a great job of tying those two, I'm going to call them separate entities, and creating one cohesive story. I just think that I just really, really respect that in season 1. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's one thing I really enjoy about season 1. So yeah. So do you want to move on to the number 4 seasons for you guys?
Sure. For me, the 4th best season, I'm not going to go the other way anymore. The 4th best season of Game of Thrones for me is season 2.
Yeah, and mine is also season 2. So
and Zach's is season 1. So we'll just go season 2, but remember that Zach's is inverted from what both Ryan and I have. So Zach, you have season 2. Well, maybe we'll just start with that. You have season 2 lower than season 1. Any specific reason why those are flipped for you?
I would say the only reason they're flipped, and I still think season 2 is really great, is I'm not as heavily invested in Dany's story in season 2. And I also am not as heavily invested in Stannis Baratheon's story as well.
I love Stannis.
I like Stannis, but I like Stannis more. I think Stannis is still around in season 3, right? I think. Yeah. So
he's still around in season 3.
Now season 2 has some really great episodes. That's like,
he's around for a while.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought Stannis was around for. He's
around
season
until like
6,
season 5,
I think, or season 5.
Yeah, season 5 or 6 is when he.
I think he might have died. It was either in 5 or 6. I'm drawing blank at the moment.
Like season 2 has some really excellent episodes. The Battle of Blackwater, despite me apparently shitting on Tyrion's military strategy, is a really, really great episode. I just think that Dany's story didn't really grab me as much as I would have liked. But one thing I do love is Robb. He's the king of the North, guys.
I love Robb is like my favorite character.
Rob's the man, and I do love how this season touches on Robb and focuses on Robb's story really heavily. I love season 2. I think I like season 1 more. So
I think one of the reasons why I like season 2 a little bit better than season 1 is I think this is where the show really is starting to kind of give us what we want and what some of what we really enjoy about the show, where the stakes really start to ramp up here. Like the stakes were obviously super high in season 1 as well, but I love how we start to really jump between all the different perspectives, and the story is kind of all the flow of the story, I think, is really, really nice, and where each of the characters are going. We start to get an idea of what they're going to do with each of these characters, and they start giving us expectations, because immediately, like, as Alan was saying, the first season, like, Ned is like the main character. Like, there's really no main characters in Game of Thrones, because like Daenerys, you could say, is obviously a main character. You know, there's all kinds of main characters. But like Ned was like, it kind of that kind of like
Daenerys now, but
yeah. Well, no, I was gonna say Rob, I think, starts to really find his way.
I meant now as in present day.
Yeah. Rob really starts to find his way, and we start to see the reactions and the responses to the consequences of what happened in season 1, and they really start to play on the ideas. And I think that's when the show starts to really ramp up. And I'm saying that after only one season, where I still felt like season 1 had some high stakes and some heavy shit. I thought season 2 really felt like the start of the, like, you know what I mean? It almost felt like season 1 was almost the prologue, and season 2 is when like the show starts, if that makes any sense at all. No disrespect to season 1. Yeah. And then obviously, like, we get one of my favorite episodes in general, as I mentioned earlier, Blackwater. That whole sequence was just like jaw dropping. Awesome episode.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of Ryan. I think that I also agree with you. I think Daenerys, Zach, I agree with you. I believe that Daenerys is really boring in this season, but I also would contest that Daenerys' storyline is boring in everything from like season 1 until like season 6. I think that Daenerys' storyline is at its best in season 1. I don't love Daenerys even as a character, but also her storyline has a lot of lows where I think season 2, is that where she spends all her time in Karth? Or is that later?
I don't think know. Season 2 might be Karth, actually.
I forget which one it is that she spends. She's gone to like city to city to city and has like, I don't know. For me, I've never really been that invested in Daenerys' storyline outside of season 1. Season 1 is like peak Daenerys storyline because I think it was like one of the most interesting, because you had her, you know, with the Dothraki and that sort of thing. I thought that was probably the most interesting, but I thought for a while I find her storyline to be much more boring, and I think that season 2 it's up there for how boring it is. But I also I think that there was a lot to love. You're not saying season 2 is bad. So
not at all.
Trying
not
to
at
say
all.
You are.
Yeah.
All of these seasons are great, but for me, I think that I loved the focus on Robb. I thought that because I was, until the following season, I was like, okay, so he's the new guy. But this show kind of season 2 is, like Ryan was saying, it does kind of start to become the Game of Thrones that's going to become, because you've got Robb, but then you're also focusing on Renly Baratheon until he gets killed by the Red Woman and Stannis, who are people that we're introduced to in this season. I don't think that Stannis might have been mentioned in the first season, but I don't believe he was shown until season 2. And you've got, Renly was in season 1, I believe, but we've got like these characters that are like, oh, who's going to be taking that spot, which was to be, trying to become the king, but also sort of for us, like, who are we supposed to start paying attention to now? I mean, we were always paying attention to everybody, but like, who's the guy or the girl? Like, who are we looking at? Who's going to be the main character? And the show kind of starts to, at this point, go, there's not just one main character. And I think that in season 1, my expectations were so much on Ned. I think that this one starts, like Ryan was saying, starts to really take off on where the show was going to go. And Battle of Blackwater is awesome, but we all talked about that, so I don't have more to say that's going to change anything.
So clearly our next 3, I'll just spoil it for you guys. We don't have the same order, but so I think it may be difficult for us to talk. So I say we just give our next 3,
and then we'll just individually
talk about the seasons
and why we have them at where we have them.
Yeah,
that'll work. I'll do mine first.
Yeah, do your top 3.
Okay, my top 3 are as follows. My third favorite season is season 4. My second favorite season is season 3. And my first favorite season is season 6. And that I'll push it on over to Ryan.
So my third favorite season was season 3. My second favorite season was season 4. And my first favorite season in all of Game of Thrones is season 6.
So you have your 2 and 3 inverted from mine.
Yep.
So Zach.
And my third favorite season is season 3. Second favorite season is season 6. And my first favorite season is season 4.
Okay, so you have your first and second seasons inverted from what Ryan has.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go. Maybe we'll go just order of release. So we'll talk season 3 first, which, as a reminder, was my second favorite season, and it was both of your third favorite season.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you guys think it sucks? Tell me why.
It's my third favorite season, so I love it.
I love all of these seasons.
No, I again, it's gonna kind of piggyback off of a lot of what I said in the last season, but like I said, Rob is my favorite character. So Rob just gets a ton of attention in this season, and we really start to see what kind of person he is and how similar he is to Ned in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we get, I think the best part of this season is just Jaime's development throughout. And this is when Jaime really starts to become a really dynamic character, especially in this season, because he's broken. They break him, and literally he loses his hand. So I just thought that, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say. Obviously, there's the big episodes, and we'll talk about that as well.
So actually, I think that's part of the reason. So you have it at your third, I have it at my second, and that's one of the reasons I have it over season 4 is that focus on Jaime as a character. I think is really, really awesome. How much time he gets devoted to him, how they give us a lot of screen time for Rob, and I'm starting to go, oh, this is my guy now. I love, and then that's the noise for the Red Wedding, I guess. I think that season 3 is really awesome and almost, in my opinion, the best that the show can get. Almost. Zach, you on season 3, which you have as your third favorite.
Yeah. I honestly don't have I haven't rewatched season 3 in a long time. I can't sit here and say I have anything that's wrong with it specifically. I just think I like season 4 and season 6 more, but it's a really, really great season. Again, I'm going to sort of just repeat what you guys were saying, but the Red Wedding is an incredible episode, and it ripped my heart out. And I think it's very similar to what happened with Ned, where it's a moment that I did not like, but I respected and loved. It's weird. I loved the storytelling. I loved how it was shocking and how I didn't expect it. And it felt natural. It felt like a natural progression to this is not, I don't personally believe this is earned, but I can see how the phrase would view it as being earned. And it's ruthless, and it's really incredible television. And I also really enjoy the focus on Jaime as well. It's an incredible season of television. It's just not my top 2. So
I think I agree with it, pretty much all the things you were saying there. I think that it was, I think we should probably talk Red Wedding, because that's probably the main reason that it ends up as high as it does. I think in general, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the Red Wedding in general is probably the big season 3 talk about. I agree with you. I think that it's because, I think every time there's a death in general, it's hard because you start to go, well, where the fuck do they go from now? Where do we go from here? It's like they've been building this character up for so long. And one of the great things about Game of Thrones deaths that's different than a lot of other shows is that when a major character dies in a lot of other shows, and I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to add spoilers for other shows, but when a major character dies in a lot of other shows and great shows of television, oftentimes they get that hero moment, or they get that, I get that last line, or, they feel more meaningful or impactful. And how Ned dies, and it's just kind of he just tried to sell out to save his family, and it's for nothing. And how Rob dies, and it's just kind of sudden and there's no real reason for it. It feels so, and it's so great with this show because it makes these things feel so impactful. Because characters die in other shows, it happens all the time, but it never feels like it does in Game of Thrones. And Walking Dead tried to do similar, in a similar way, but oftentimes those deaths still kind of felt like they had meaning, or there was a reason, or you'd know when they were going to go. And these ones were just fucking Thanos snap, and that's it.
Yeah. And it just felt like this episode crushed me. And what I love so much about the Reigns of Castamere overall as an episode, what I think is so good, because I knew we had a friend also at our job when we were working, because we were at Penn State at the time, and we worked at the cafeteria. And one of the chefs actually that we were friends with talked to us about it, and we heard about the Red Wedding. We knew what the Red Wedding was. It was out there.
I didn't know what
we
was
knew
going to happen.
We didn't know what was going to happen. We knew of the
Red Wedding.
Like everyone was talking about like that's the most heartbreaking shit, or not even the most heartbreaking, the most crazy shit is what I always heard. Like,
yeah.
No, and I had no indication. So I think the show also knew that because they're setting up both Rob's wedding and Joffrey's wedding at the same time.
Right.
And I think people knew going in, like in this episode. What I think also makes this episode so great is because the show is aware that people know what the Red Wedding is because of book readers and people talking about it in general. It's just one of the more popular ideas of the show. So I remember watching that episode, knowing it was the episode for the Red Wedding, and being like, okay, like I really hope this is not Rob's wedding. Like the whole as it's going along, just being like, which one is it going to be? Which one's going to be the one? But something happens, and I don't know what's going to happen, but something happens. And then when it did happen, it was just like I was just like, no.
And it's not just Rob too, because it's Rob and it's Catelyn and it's his wife.
And that was the other thing.
And it's the
I didn't know the extent.
It was the hope of the show.
Yeah.
Not only is it like it's the hope of the show. Not only is it just killing characters, you're killing in an arc. That whole arc ended instantly. Like as you said, Thanos snapped
and
instantly.
it didn't feel like it was ready to go. I mean, now that we've moved past it, it's like okay, I see the show progress.
It felt like,
but
that
at the
was
time,
just
it's
the
like,
end of
what
the
the
good guys.
fuck are we gonna do? Like, it's perfect. It is a phenomenal episode of television as a whole, but also where it fits in this season, phenomenal.
Yeah,
I used phenomenal twice.
Phenomenal.
Zach, your thoughts on the Red Wedding? Did we get yours? I don't think we did.
I kind of went first actually on the Red Wedding.
Oh yeah, because I said it, but I was piggybacking off of you talking about it. Okay, yeah. Then I guess let's move on to season 4, which I had at my third favorite, and Zach, you have as your number 1 favorite, and Ryan has it as number 2. So we all are different on season 4.
Yeah, Alan, why do you hate season 4?
I turned it on me. I like season 4, and it is my third favorite season on here. I think that the stuff with Tyrion is, in my opinion, the highlight. I think that everything that happened with Tyrion was really good.
Yeah.
Is phenomenal in season 4. I have reasons why 6 is ahead, but we'll get to that when I get to 6. But I think that season 4 is, and well, I guess I can talk about why I had it ahead, why I had season 3 ahead of it. I think the Red Wedding is maybe the main reason. I think that the Red Wedding, well, we all agree, I think that the Red Wedding is a better episode than the Purple Weddings episode, or the Reigns of Castamere, and I don't know.
The Lion and the Rose.
The Purple Wedding is named. The Lion and the Rose. But I think in a lot of ways, I think that that's probably the thing that takes it over. I think that they're similar, in my opinion, in how good they are between 3 and 4, and I just have 3 edge it out by that much. But, ask me another day, or ask me after I do some rewatches on some things, and it could be even switched from there. I think these top 3 are all really close.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Where really all of them are great. I think these top 3 are some of the best seasons of television.
Yeah, I 100%
Season
agree.
4, while we're making these Thanos references, season 4 is perfectly balanced as all things should be. Kicking it off with a fucking bang with episode 2, The Lion and the Rose, aka the Purple Wedding, which set the precedent of the entire season. That is what the entire season, from that point on, is revolved around, for the most part. Obviously, from the side of Westeros, not with Essos, with Dany, which I forgot to mention in season 3. I really loved that the Unsullied were introduced in season 3.
Oh, yes.
That was good.
That stuff was really great.
Piss off a lot of Dany people and what I said earlier.
But what was it? Where was I? But this season I thought just like kicked it off with that insanely good episode, left it up as a mystery. We didn't have the direct answers right then and there. We were also left in shock. We're also guessing along with the rest of the characters as to who did it, who schemed it. And then obviously with the climax of this arc, which it's not even a fulfilling climax. It's just like Tyrion was just the scapegoat.
Yeah.
We have that amazing moment, as you were saying, where Tyrion, or no one said, but I don't know why I said as you were saying, but with Tyrion's trial.
Yep.
Was just fucking incredible. Like
amazing how it finishes.
Oh my god. And especially considering that like Jaime was trying to give him an out and trying to protect him, because Jaime's always trying to protect Tyrion, and Tyrion's always trying to protect Jaime, and the amount of respect they have for one another is incredible. And the way that ends, I thought, is just kind of the nail in the coffin of Tyrion and Westeros, and kind of like throwing away any ties he has to his family. And then also with one of my favorite episodes with the Mountain and the Viper, which is like the best one-on-one fight in Game of Thrones history. With a character that was introduced, I believe, just in this season, with Oberyn Martell,
season 4,
who was quickly becoming a favorite of mine. He's just I fucking love Oberyn. And then what happens and what his motivations as to why he's doing it, I thought was so well handled. And it's kind of explained later on as the season goes along and why he's there. And then kind of flipping your expectations again with the Mountain and the Viper, because you're thinking as the viewer, it's like he can't lose, because the Mountain is a disposable character, and it makes sense that he would die. And then
also Tyrion is so not disposable.
And the Tyrion, exactly, and that Tyrion wouldn't die, and they just introduced Oberyn, and he's been an awesome character so far. There's no way he could die. No, you still, to this point, the Red Wedding happened. You're still like, he could happen. So it's really edge of your seat. That whole fight is edge of your seat. And then it's almost like watching it's like watching the Super Bowl to me. Watching the episode was just like if your favorite team was in the Super Bowl and you're like, you really want your team to win. Like, you really want Oberyn to win. And it's happening. And then they throw an interception on the 1 yard line. When they had Marshawn Lynch and they could have just when he's taunting him, and then it all just crumbles, and it just
that moment,
and you lose, and the justice of it that Oberyn was trying to deliver, and then it just gets thrown back in his face as his head is crushed. Oh God, that episode I've gone back and watched, and it's hard. It's one of the hardest scenes to watch just in general, but it's such a good scene and such a great payoff to the season. And then ultimately what ends up happening with Tyrion and how he escapes. Oh God, I love this season. This season was number one for me for a while, and it's really close to number one because I just think it's just such a perfectly balanced. I remember for a while I was just like, this season can't be topped after finishing it. But
let's give it to the person who has it as his number one, because Zach, you do have season 4 as the best season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and Ryan just described every reason why it is. I don't understand why.
Sorry, I just went on a whole tangent. I just love. I get so passionate about this season.
No, it's perfect. This season is. I don't know if it can ever be topped. I mean, I hope season 8's better, just because I hope it is. Like, I want this show to be finished off in the best way possible. But for me, it just has so many incredibly solid moments and so many incredibly solid episodes that I just can't help but place it at number one. Obviously, the overarching theme of being for in Westeros, at least, for being Joffrey's death and the trial of Tyrion is so incredibly interesting. The Laws of Gods and Men is the episode in which Tyrion's trial is being taken place, and you said it so perfectly. It's just such an incredible episode. It's written so well, and you can really see Peter Dinklage's level of acting. He really brings it in every single scene, and his relationship with Jaime is so perfectly placed. And Tywin's relationship with Tyrion is also so incredible, because you can see the way Tywin feels about Tyrion. Sorry, go ahead.
And how heartbreaking, I've already even mentioned, and how heartbreaking Shay's departure.
Oh God, yes.
Oh my God, in that trial. Oh
yes,
God. This whole season just has some bangers, some hidden bangers, and that people seem to forget. And I eat this season up. It just has so much. It's so perfectly balanced.
And the payoff right at the end of the season. I mean, the penultimate episode is great with the Watchers on the Wall, because it really combines it's the wildling attack on the wall, and I love Ygritte as a character, and has Ygritte's death, and I love Ygritte and Jon's relationship, and I think that's so powerful to me. But the last episode of this freaking season is the children, and Tyrion kills his dad, and it's just and he has to kill he has to kill Asha, and it's just like all of that.
He kills Shay.
Shay,
and kills his father.
That's what I meant.
He chokes her out when he discovers her, and
God. It just has so many gut-wrenching, powerful scenes. I can't help but love this
Jaime
episode.
let him out to do it. Oh God.
And
it really sets Tyrion on his, like, as we were saying also with Jaime in season 3. It was just like this broke down Tyrion as a character in this season, to a point that he was either gonna just let himself die or just fight to survive, and he just has to go through every single personal, mental barrier to make that happen before escaping and then spending a lot of season 5 in a barrel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Season 5's the worst
Watching-
season.
That's only like a couple episodes.
watching
I think, but,
watching the show and realizing that Tyrion Lannister is in season 1, 2, and 3 is great, and he's amazing, but he solidifies himself as one of the best characters in television history with this season, and watching him struggle, and you could clearly see the passion George R. R. Martin and Benioff and Weiss have for Tyrion Lannister and the way he's written throughout this whole season. I love it, and I can't get enough of it. But there are also other incredible moments throughout this season. In Mockingbird, when Peter kills Lysa, and it's just like there's so much going on. I'm an absolute giant fan of this season. I can't get enough. I also am very interested in what's her name, Daenerys' storyline as well, because I believe she's in Marine in this season, and she's sort of freeing everyone there, and I think that shows who she is as a person really well. And I'm just a big fan of this season, guys. Could talk for a long time about why season 4 is amazing, but yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm happy you did, because that's your.
I
number
didn't
one,
even mention
and
the Mountain and the Viper, but you guys said everything about that. That's perfect. Like
that. Oh
it's
my
just-
god, that episode
it's
is
just
such a fucking heartbreaker.
it's just like
It is so it really. I think the Super Bowl analogy. I think is just
It's perfect.
for like
It's
my
perfect.
for how I watch it. I was so invested.
it's absolutely perfect. I
was nervous.
I remember
going into
watching
it, like,
the Mountain and the Viper, and saying my head exploded doesn't sound right because it sounds punny, but it did. Like I
remember when Al and I watched it, like we were like cheering literally as we were
same.
watching it.
I wanted
we were,
Oberyn to win so bad.
And then when he loses, we're both like, no! Like, we both, like,
And it's another one
exclaimed.
of those, and this show does it a lot. And as I was saying before, like, where the fuck do we go from here?
This is it's the perfect example of I think the drama that's inherent within Trial by Combat, because we're not just invested in the actual fighting and the death of one of these two characters. We're also fighting for Tyrion, a guy who we fucking love. Like it's so brilliantly tied together. It's just great. So tell me about season 6.
Season 6, you have it number 2, and Ryan and I both have it 1. I'm just gonna real quickly, because I don't want to spend too much time, because I'm gonna talk more on some of the things in season 6 later. But Winds of Winter, Battle of the Bastards, and The Door. A third of these that's a third of the season are those 3 episodes, because it's 10 episodes long. It's roughly a third. Those are some of the best episodes of the series. Winds of Winter and Battle of the Bastards are 2 of the best episodes of television ever, in my opinion. So for me, it couldn't be anything other than season 6. Season 6 has some of the best payoffs with those 2 episodes, and it as Ryan was saying before about season 5. It takes all of the things from season 5, all of the setup that felt like it drudged on, and it finishes it. It with the Battle of the Bastards, it really fucking hammers in
that's the payoff of 2
the Jon
seasons.
Snow, the Jon Snow stuff, the Ramsay Bolton stuff. It's paying off all that, and then in Winds of Winter, you pay off all the Cersei stuff. You pay off the Sparrow shit that everyone hated, but you pay off all the Tyrell
in the best
stuff.
way possible.
Yeah, you pay off all the Tyrell stuff. You finally are done with Arya and the stuff that she was having. Why am I drawing a blank? Yeah, the Faceless Man stuff.
What's that religion called again?
I can't pull it now. But
The House
you pay
of
off
Black
on
and
all
White,
of those things.
or-
To me,
That's where she.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the religion's called.
but to me, it's a season of righting the ship, right, so to speak. I mean, season 5 isn't
Many-faced God.
terrible, but but that, it sort of really. It puts everything. To me, it's just the best that the show can be.
So
at multiple points. Sorry, Ryan.
For me, and I would agree with everything Alan said there for sure. And the reason why this is number 1 for me, as I think also this does the best character work for Jon.
Mm-hmm.
For also, and this is gonna sound weird, I was just saying about season 4, but also for like Tyrion. And I think mostly with Jon, I think
Recently brought back,
because I think I love how the season starts, because it's almost, they use the death almost as like a baptism or like a rebirth for Jon, because his whole motivation and everything he had believed in is completely changed, and he has to grow from this experience and what happened to him. And I think the show does an excellent job of just like it. Honestly, to be honest, I'm going to say this also, and this might be a little controversial, similar to what you were saying about Danny. I didn't really care much for Jon Snow until season 6.
I don't think that's
I thought
controversial.
he was a fine character. I thought he was a fine character. I enjoyed watching his story, but I always felt like I was more interested in everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was also especially heartbroken in season 4, or I'm sorry, in season 3 when Rob died and all of them died. Because I was like, fuck, I mean, those are my homies. And now I'm rooting for Jon.
Yeah.
And Jon I thought was fine and all, but like I think in season 6, his arc in this season I think is just so perfectly handled. And I think the payoff, like where like even when he died in season 5, I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of a like not lame way, but just kind of a heartbreaking way for him to die. And it's like, that's fine. It's in pure Game of Thrones fashion. But I wasn't like totally distraught over his death. I wasn't like feeling bad about like super bad about his death. When he died, when we were in the Battle of the Bastards, when I thought they might fail and he might die, I was actually like, no. and that was just in a span of 9 episodes or so. How many? 1, 2, 9 episodes. I was able to feel that. So I think what they did with Jon's character in general, making him one of my favorites. And then I think also what they also did the impossible, and they made Bran's story interesting.
Mm-hmm.
With Hodor and the door, which is, oh my god, one of the best mind fucks in an episode, where it's just maybe one of the most heartbreaking, actually I would say probably the most heartbreaking moment in the show's history, that his entire existence led to that moment.
I think it's more heartbreaking when you think about it, but you probably still put the Red Wedding for...
No, I guess so. But I'm like heartbreaking
when you sit on it and you think like, yeah.
To me, I would say almost this is more heartbreaking because the Red Wedding was still made because of decisions and mistakes of Rob and his character.
Yeah,
and I think with Hodor, he was victim his entire life to this moment that led to him dying to give them a little bit of time to escape. And he's just such a simple, not like. It's a really crushing moment for him, but he did. That was what his entire existence led up to, and they made Bran's story interesting because they also gave us the answer to a fan theory that we've all had forever that like made total sense, which was at the last episode, which is one of the fucking best episodes, period, for a multitude of reasons. In the Winds of Winter, when we got to see the flashback with Ned Stark and Liara. With Rhaegar Targaryen Rhaegar wasn't there, but in the tower, what really happened?
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I remember that shit. That gave me more goosebumps than anything in the season when they showed like the baby's face and you're realizing it, and then they cuts to Jon's face and the King of the North. But again, as Alan was saying, also just some of the best episodes in the series are in this season. Just straight up like film, like better than film quality, like insanely good episodes, like Battle of the Bastards, Winds of Winter, The Door. There's even Sorry, I went on another tangent there.
I loved it. No, that was a great tangent. Alan, I'm not. Did you talk about season 6 really, Alan?
Yeah, no, I did. I started.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
I let us off.
I always forget where we start. No, I echo everything you guys say. I love season 6. Obviously, me saying a second means it's a very close second. And honestly, I haven't watched all of these again. And if I did, it might switch around. But the Winds of Winter and the Battle of Bastards are just 2 of the best episodes of TV. Period. Like, I'm not gonna add any other clarifying statement there. They're just the 2 of the best episodes of TV. So, speaking of the best episodes of TV, why don't we rank our top 5 episodes of Game of Thrones? So, guys, how do we want to do this? We want to do this similar to the last way, or do we just want to list them and then talk about it?
Let's just
go
go all
the
the
original
way
way, just because it'll probably be quicker, and we are running long.
Yeah, we'll just go through. We'll just talk about them each individual. We've also talked pretty extensively about these kind of episodes because when we're talking about the seasons, but we'll talk briefly about each episode. But we'll just kind of go each one at a time.
Okay, Ryan, why don't you kick it off?
Okay, my top 5 episodes for Game of Thrones history, in my personal opinion. Number 5, I went with season 4, episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper. You heard me talk about it a little bit. When we were talking about the seasons. Number 4 is season 3, episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere. Number 3 for me is 5.8, Hardhome. Number 2 is 6.10, The Winds of Winter. And number 1 is season 6, episode 9, Battle of the Bastards.
Okay, Alan?
Okay, so for me, and I'm already gonna mess it up because I can't remember how you told me how to pronounce it. For my number 5, I have season 1, episode 9, Baylor. Is that how it was? Did I get it right this time? Hell yeah! For number 5, I had Baylor, and then I had for number 4, season 4, episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper. For number 3, I had season 3, episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere. For number 2, I had season 6, episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. And then I had, at number 1, season 6, episode 10, The Winds of Winter.
Alrighty, and as my number 5, I have season 4, episode 6, The Law of Gods and Men. For number 4, I have season 3, episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere. For number 3, I have season 5, episode 8, Hard Home. Number 2 is season 6, episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. And for number 1 is season 6, episode 10, Winds of Winter. So we have a lot of similar answers here. So.
Yeah, and I think if we extended these lists out even farther than 5, we probably would have all of the same things on our lists, I think, for the most part, because I love every episode that you guys mentioned as well.
I originally made my top 10, and all of the ones that are included in my top 10 that are not in my top 5 that you guys have are in my top 10. So
I'm going to start with Battle of the Bastards. That's my number 1 pick. That's your guys' number 2 pick. So you guys loved it as well. I'm also going to kind of mention, I forgot to mention this when I was talking about season 6 because I was getting carried away. One of the other things I loved about season 6 was Ramsay Bolton. I thought was just, I would argue, is the best villain up there with Cersei and Joffrey.
That's the 3. That's the big 3.
But I love hating. I think at the very least, he's the most despicable and easy to hate.
I think I like Ramsay more than Joffrey as a villain. Like,
yeah, I do for sure. And that segue, as I was saying, Battle of the Bastards is my favorite episode in the series, and I think that is the best choreographed action sequence in a TV show I've ever seen, and like better than a lot of movies do. I thought that whole fight sequence was just incredible, and I loved in shining through it. While the whole episode is literally just a battle, what shines through it is the characters' personalities.
Oh yeah,
along with how they're ruling their armies and how you have like literally Ramsay toying with Jon to the very end. And also how and the fact that he trapped Jon right off the bat to get him basically in the center of the battle field and just put him in a super unadvantageous position, preying on Jon's how he wanted to protect his younger brother, and how protective he is of his family. And it just played at it, and it put him in a basically the worst position. I almost thought it was over right then and there. I was like, that shot when he's like unsheathing his sword, and the horses are drawing closer and closer and closer.
Gracious. It's just one of the best moments in all of anything.
Oh God. That whole battle, and then like actually winning for once in this show.
Somebody was allowed to win.
And then Sansa something. Coming in to save him in the end with the veil. Because she got Baelish which again has implications in season 7. Huge implications all throughout season 7. I just thought this episode was just honestly, just one of the most incredible, if not one of the most incredible battle sequences I've seen in any medium ever.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. It's my second favorite episode, but by like a little bit. I don't even. They're probably even. It's just whatever I was feeling today. The Battle of the Bastards is absolutely incredible. Miguel Sapochnik did an incredible job directing this episode. I mean, you touched upon the fight choreography, but I think what's equally as important is the fight geography. So it really showcases where Jon is on the battlefield, and it tells a story throughout. And you touched upon the story perfectly with how it affects how both of their personalities are affecting where they are on the battlefield. I think that a great fantasy battle has to tell a story within a story. And it's another reason why I love Hard Home, an episode that I'll touch upon later. But the Battle of the Bastards just does such an incredible job of doing that. And we get to have the moment at the end where Sansa saving them with the Knights of the Vale is also perfectly poetic, just because of how Ramsay treated Sansa as well. It's just incredible episode.
And her getting her comeuppance.
Yeah.
Especially in her revenge at the very last scene of the episode, too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Letting the dogs eat him.
Yeah.
And just her viciousness. Now she wanted to look away and she kept watching, just like how she made how Theon had to watch when, you know. It's like, it was justice, and it was brutal, but it was justice, and it made you feel good watching it happen, even though it was in the most basically brutal death you could possibly have. Mm-hmm. One of the more brutal deaths you could possibly have.
Yeah, certainly.
Then we maybe want to talk about the Winds of Winter, because that's my number 2, a very close number 2.
And it's my number 1.
Because it's your guys' number 1. And what fucking blew me away with this episode is getting out of the Battle of the Bastards being like, how the fuck do you top that? And then starting off with that amazing sequence with fucking Cersei. Ooh. Oh my god. And then when it caps off with Tommen dying, it's like, stop!
Yeah.
Like, let me breathe.
That episode is probably the best of payoff episodes.
That editing in that scene is just fucking...
it's amazing.
Probably the best in terms of just straight up payoff episodes, because it pays off on a lot of... counting because it has so many payoffs in the episode. Because I wouldn't say Battle of the Bastards isn't necessarily a payoff episode, but this one just having... Because the whole thing about this episode is just payoff, and that's why I have it as high as just... It's just everything that's been bad is now gone. And I think that what's crazy is, like, everyone hates Cersei. Like us, like fans of the show, like hate or love to hate her. You know what I mean? Like, not like I hate that character, but like, I think that even when what she does, it's like, it's almost a fist pump moment. It's almost like you're excited, and a lot of people even like the Tyrells, but it's like, because she's getting rid of the Sparrows that everyone fucking hates and handled it so well. I think it's just, to me, I think it's, and maybe it's just me because I do love Cersei and I love to hate her.
Oh, it's definitely not.
I think it was just.
It's still like
a satisfying moment, even if you hate her.
Yeah.
And like, it sucked to see Marjorie go, but it's also fun to see the Sparrows go.
Right.
Yeah. and it was a big win, and it progressed the show. At the end of this one, it wasn't as much of a, where do we go from here? It was like we're moving again.
Yeah.
But not moving again because we had,
but where everything paid off to that moment. All of season 5, season 6. But again, as I was saying, the Battle of Bastards did it. This was like a huge payoff between these two moment episodes. To these 2 seasons, capping off that storyline and Marjorie, and the questions and always, I think, is the best part of these big moments in these shows is you have these big moments that happen, like the Red Wedding or the Purple Wedding, or all these big moments, or like this, either of these, for instance. And the best part of these is watching the aftermath and how characters respond and react to it afterwards, because these moments have implications throughout the entire world, and it's fun seeing what happens, like seeing what happens with Olenna, how she reacts to everything, and with Marjorie dying, and just how the city is reacting, and her revenge for her being paraded through the streets. It's just
starting,
and that's just the beginning of the episode.
Oh no, yeah, that's just the beginning. That I just want to touch upon this real quick. That first 10 minutes or so has one of the best songs the show has ever had in the Light of the Seven. Raymond, I can never say the guy's name. Raymond Dawajdi. I'm not sure how to say his name. Scores an incredible piece of music, because there's just that one. It's one piece of music called "The Light of the Seven" playing throughout that whole opening scene, and it just perfectly punctuates everything that is happening. It's just brilliant storytelling.
Poetic is a good way of putting it. Like the way it's just like the way it's edited so tightly. It's almost like you're on a clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a countdown to that moment. When the moment happens, it punches you really hard in the face. And it happens, and then like even immediately after it happens, and then Tommen, like everything that Tommen had been trying, like Tommen had been trying to be an independent king. He's been trying to find his way, and he found his way with this, even though it was a failure. But everything he had known and everything he had loved, it just blew up in front of him, and he just took his crown off. He was done. He just jumped off, and it was just like another like holy shit, what the fuck moment, And then at the end of this episode, at the end of the season as well, we get our moment of the payoff of the entire season with Bran's story, where he's been kind of stuck in this, just trying to discover what happened in the tower with his father,
the Tower of Joy,
and Lyanna, his aunt, the Tower of Joy. Thank you. And the payoff of that moment when you discover what actually is happening in there, when we had to this point had been thinking that she was being like raped and tortured, was she was actually giving birth to Jon Snow, right, or Aegon Targaryen, as what his actual birthright name is, which we don't discover until season 7, his actual name. But that moment where it shows his face, where it shows the baby's face, and you as an audience, they don't outright like kind of tell you, but they let you come to the realization. And then when it cuts away to his face and you hear the King of the North shit, I was talking about this earlier, but that was like, I was cheering because I was so excited because I had bought into this theory, and then it being true was fucking sick. And the implications again of that, like, it just gets you thinking, like, what does this mean then? What, like, so he's the rightful heir to the throne then? And yeah, it's fucking.
This episode has so much in it. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
Arya also kills Walder.
Arya kills Walder Frey and feeds him a pie of his own
and
sons.
Daenerys sets sail for Westeros.
Jon is made the King of the North. Like this,
and the banners was in Battle of the Bastards, and they put the Stark banners back up.
But it's like this episode has so much in it, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, Arya killing Walder is kind of payoff from all the way back with the Red Wedding. Yep. You've got fucking Daenerys sailing for Westeros is payoff from fucking the entire show at this point of her whole thing. It's like, oh, she's finally gonna be here. So yeah, no, I think overall all of it is this episode is amazing, and so much happens, and it doesn't feel poorly paced. And it feels actually impeccably paced for how much goes on in this show or in this episode. I love this episode. Let's talk Home, and then because I don't have it on mine.
We'll talk quickly.
If I had a 6, it would have been my 6.
We did talk about Reigns of Castamere a lot. We did talk about the Mountain and the Viper a lot. So I think Baylor, we didn't talk much. We talked about Baylor a little bit.
Pretty much all.
We'll hit on Hard Home, and then we'll wrap up the episode.
Yeah, because I know that you guys have it at 3 and 3. Both of you guys. No, do you guys both
have it at 3?
No, right? Yeah, you both have it at 3.
Basically, what I said about the Battle of the Bastards, I doubled down with on Hard Home. It's the battle is a little shorter than the Battle of the Bastards, but I am impressed by both the fight geography, fight choreography, and as well. I'm impressed by there's a story being told within the overall story, and we get to see I don't remember the wildling's name, but it's a wildling with two children, and her story is shown throughout the episode as well. And I think it's beautiful that throughout this massive moment in Game of Thrones history, when we're really, really starting to see the Night King and do his thing really for the first real time, we have a moment that is that small, that we're showcasing the love that this wildling, what mother has for her children, and she's putting her trust in Jon to make them safe. I just think that's so touching. Ryan, what do you think about
Hard Home? I just love how epic and unexpected the fight was as well.
Good point.
How we're starting off with, it almost feels like a normal episode throughout. Because like, I mean, we're on the cusp of things, but the way that it just all starts to just happen, and it starts to feel, again, even as I was saying about the Battle of the Bastards, it starts to feel like, shit, this might be the end for Jon Snow.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Or this might be the end for these characters, because at this point, the show has proven time and time again that they can take anyone away from you at any time. And it was such and in that moment, I think the moment that sticks with me most with this episode, which I find the most daunting and the most impactful, was that moment at the end when they all stand up.
Oh yeah.
When they're running away and they look at, and just seeing what they're capable of and how powerful they are and how undermatched, because this is also the first real, like, show of force of the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first time we really get to see what they're made of.
And the whites
anyway.
are terrifying. The
whites, yeah, the zombies, the Walking Dead, as they're kind of calling them. Was just incredible, and seeing the people that they failed to save standing up and joining because they're dead, and then it kind of shows the implication of how dangerous and how infectious this is, and how unstoppable this is. I thought like that. I remember watching that episode, especially like as I said in season 5. I remember when I first watched season 5, I didn't feel as, because it was new Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, more Game of Thrones. But like rewatching the show, it was kind of like because I watched it and then Alan hadn't seen it, so I was rewatching with Alan, and my rewatch of it's like, oh man, this is much slower than I thought. When can we get to the cool stuff? But like when you get to Hardhome, it's just like it's a punch to the face also. And why I was saying it was so unexpected is because the whole season to this point has been kind of slow, and then you get like hit with that epic. But yeah,
couldn't agree more. All right, do we?
Oh, also Arya's section. I think this is probably Arya's best episode in the season 2. It's the one where she is going through town. She's going through town with the I'm trying to remember.
Is this the one where she kills the person that killed her sword teacher? Sword teacher.
I believe that was the episode. I might be mixing it up.
I don't remember Arya, but I honestly am not sure.
It's been a bit.
Just ignore me. It's been a little bit since
I've
seen
seen
it.
I think it's when she kills Jagan Hagar. I'm pretty sure you're right. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's the episode.
Yeah, and then no, she doesn't kill Jagan. She kills somebody else. I can't think of it. But anyway, Jagan gets pissed off at her for killing the other guy.
Because that doesn't happen until later.
Yep.
Or even So anyway, let's just go. I don't have much to say. I think I said it probably would be my number 6. I put Baelor on there probably more personally because of how it got me more. It was the episode that really hooked me on the show.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I believe we touched upon the Mountain and the Viper a lot, and I also talked about the Law of Gods and Men as well. So I think we good to move on.
Yeah, but I want to know what they
That is
think.
a perfect segue, Alan. Thank you. We want to know what you guys think. So hop on over to twitter.com/Razzle Review and answer our Twitter poll for this week. The Twitter poll is, what is the best episode of Game of Thrones? And the options are Battle of the Bastards, The Winds of Winter, Hardhome, and The Reigns of Castamere. So please let us know.
If you don't agree with any of those, just reply to it and let us know which one
reply
you think
with
is the
us.
best.
Tell
But also vote.
Totally.
But also vote out of the 4.
Yeah, if you don't think this is the best episode, tell us what the best out of these. So, Alan, you know how at the end of every episode we do this thing called the weekly retrospective, right?
I do know that.
Well, I'm gonna have Ryan go first. Shut
Why
up.
don't you tell them?
Ryan, we do this thing called weekly retrospective, where at the end of the episode every week we talk about what we played, watched, bought, did, anything of note. We just sort of talk about it. So, Ryan, kick us off with your weekly retrospective.
So I had a I spent most of my time watching Game of Thrones, so obviously that I don't have to mention that. But I also did some other stuff. I played some Civ 6, as I've been playing a lot more lately. I love that game. I've been actually playing Final Fantasy VII on the Switch. That came out on the Switch last week, so I've been kind of replaying that. I love the game. It's one of my favorites of all time, even though it's not my favorite Final Fantasy. But Alan, you still got to play that.
Yeah, no, I didn't know it came out on the Switch yet.
But yeah, I've been playing that. I'm a few hours in. Still loving the game. So I'm also playing. I played a little bit of MLB The Show 2019 because baseball came back and Alan got it, so we played some together. We've been having fun with that. One of the more fun baseball games or sports games. I mean, the only baseball game. Then Overwatch. I've been playing that as we always play. Apex Legends. Me and Zach were trying to get some bread every once in a while.
Trying to get that bread.
We've been playing Borderlands 2 as well because of the Borderlands 3 announcement. So we're pretty excited about that. So I played Borderlands 2 a while ago, a little bit, not a lot. And Zach had never played it. So we decided to play co-op together when we started the other day. We're going to play a little more. It's pretty fun. I watched Shazam. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. A lot of fun. I watched Pet Sematary. Okay, not bad. and obviously Game of Thrones. So that's it.
Excellent. Alan, what was your weekly retrospective like?
Yeah, so I decided at the beginning of this week, because I'd seen a lot of stuff, a lot of trailers out for John Cryer's Lex Luthor on Supergirl, that I was going to give Supergirl another chance. I had previously been watching all of the Arrowverse shows and stopped right at Crisis on Earth X. So I watched all of Crisis on Earth X for every single CW show, all 4 of the crossover. Then I watched Supergirl, and I'm almost done with season 3. They're currently on season 4. I miss this show. I'm not going to go back and watch Arrow or Flash or Legends, but I don't know. I miss this show. I had a lot of fun with it. It gives me that same sort of like happy feel that I get when I watch Buffy, which I didn't actually watch this week. I also watched Survivor, as I do most of the time. I played some MLB The Show 19 with Ryan, as he was saying before. Watched some Rick and Morty in the middle of the night, because I've been putting that on to go to sleep to, and then ended up watching multiple episodes. I played some Overwatch League, the esport for Overwatch. Stage 2 is back. Ryan is going to say that he watched some of that as well.
Yeah, I've heard
that. Watched some of that. Philly Fusion 1-1 this week. A little bit depressing. Was hoping they'd go 2-0, but they had New York, so that means nothing to most people listening. And I brought it up last week, and I'm going to say it again. You guys need to watch What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show.
We started watching it together. Alan and I were halfway through an episode, but then we had to start the podcast.
Yeah, but I've watched both episodes. Ryan has now watched half an episode. It is fucking hilarious. It's like 23-minute episodes, like like a half an hour, with commercials. Zach, you need to watch this. Ryan, I've already told he's gonna fucking watch it.
Yeah, it's really funny.
It's fucking hilarious. And then outside of that, because my wife's birthday is this week, we decided to go see Mean Girls on Broadway, which I'd already seen before. But I fucking love that Broadway show. And, I think next year or in September, I'm going to go see King Kong or Beetlejuice.
And in June, we found out that we're going to Disney.
Oh yeah. To Disney World
cool.
in June. I don't know if we told you that, Zach, but Ryan and I are in
No,
we
you
did?
didn't,
Okay,
I
then
said.
perfect. Oh, we did? Great.
We're going to Disney for
we're going
5
to Disney
days in June.
for 5 days in June. We got a deal on something that ended up working out, and we're just gonna go 5 days to Disney World. We will we'll figure something out for the podcast. We'll either record our early episode, or we'll make Zach do it by himself. I don't know.
Just a solo podcast episode.
But I got to see the Mean Girls on Broadway, and we're going to Disney World in June. That didn't happen this week. Well, I mean, finding out about it happened this week, but haven't been to Disney World yet. Zach, let's pass that along to you. What did you do this week?
Thanks, homie. I played Overwatch. Got to watch a little bit of the Overwatch League, Stage 2. I played Civ 6. I've been watching King of the Hill when I can't fall asleep. It's an animated show.
I'm not a big fan of King of the Hill. That's me.
I really
Oh
like
my
King
god,
of the
it's
Hill.
so funny.
I don't like King of the
You
Hill.
think you actually watch an episode or two?
To be fair, I haven't actually
watch
watched
I thought the same
from
thing
the
for a
start.
while. It was a couple years ago I saw my first episode. It's actually funny.
Oh, it's actually funny, and it's incredibly heartfelt. It's a really, really great show. I highly recommend it, Alan. If you like a good animated show, I definitely recommend you watch it. I went and saw Shazam. I liked it. I liked it. Played Apex Legends, trying to get that bread. I am fucking terrible.
We both are very bad.
Yeah. And also,
I was getting really tilted too.
I also played Borderlands 2. Gearbox, you need to add the Apex Legends slide into Borderlands 2. Patch that shit in. Thank you. Pet Cemetery, I went and saw that. I liked it. I thought it was okay. But I still liked it. It's not great, but
Pacing
it's
was
not
weird.
bad.
Really
Pacing
weird.
is weird, and I thought some of the characters were bland. I watched Game of Thrones season 7, and that was about it. So yeah, that was my weekly retrospective. So boys, at the end of the show every week we talk about our Twitter poll results. Now this is a bit awkward for me, but our Twitter poll last week was who is the best, and I did win with 70% of the votes.
So unfortunately, and we didn't talk about this before, but I ended up with the least votes, and because of that, we decided we were trying to cut down on people. So this will be my last show. That's a lie.
It's just me and Zach now. It's just RAZZLE.
Yeah, I got 10% of the votes. Ryan got 20%, and Zach finished with the 70% and won the poll.
To be fair, this is one of the lower voted on Twitter polls, and a lot of my family follows Razzle on Twitter, so
yeah.
But anyway, that was a good fun one, and we had some good replies to the.
For you.
we had some good replies to the poll, so definitely please continue to vote in those polls if you do. So guys, at the anything we'd like to plug here before we say so long? It's gonna be about a 2-hour episode, so that's exciting.
Yeah, geez, we're going long. I mean, the last one was supposed to be long, but long twice in a row. I don't have anything to plug this week.
We'll want to talk about. Oh, Zach will talk about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, Zach will talk about it. I trust Zach. You can follow me on Twitter at Alan Havens. That's AlanHavens. I like that I always spell my name out when it's like much easier to spell than Zach's.
Yep, I don't spell
and he's
mine.
just like links in the description. Oh, I thought you just put it in the description. I don't remember. Maybe I just tune out whenever you talk.
No, I never spell
it. Okay.
All right, Ryan,
yeah,
anything for you to plug?
Just follow me on Twitter at Ryan_Havens. I'm working on some ideas for stuff I want to do.
Fantastic. Follow me on Twitter at I am Maurer. Follow Razzle on Twitter at Razzle Review. Links to everything discussed will be in the description box down below. Alan, that's what I always say. Please go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Razzle Reviews, and make sure to like, subscribe, share, do all that fun YouTube stuff over there. Please remember to rate our show, not your show. Well, you can also rate your show, but please remember to rate our show on all your favorite podcast apps. If you have an iPhone or an Apple device, RAZZLEcast is now Siri compatible. All you have to do is say, "Hey Siri, play RAZZLEcast," "Hey Siri, play the newest episode of RAZZLEcast," or "Hey Siri, subscribe to RAZZLEcast." If you want a chance to be on the show, please call into our Razzle line, or whatever we're going to call it. We still haven't figured that out.
It
phone
sounds
number
like it's
is
Razzle line at this point.
Yeah, I think it's just Razzle line. It's going to be called Razzle line or whatever we want to call it. The phone number is 267-343-9253. Again, that's 267-343-9253. Leave about a 15-second voicemail with any questions, concerns, or comments about Alan. Or anything else you want to talk about.
Hey, Zach, what are we doing next week?
Next week, thanks for asking, buddy. Next week and the week after, we will be talking about Marvel. So we're going to be having 2 weeks of Marvel leading up to Avengers Endgame. So please look forward to that. We're going to have a blast talking about all of our favorite Marvel
Razzle
films.
Bye Week begins. That's what I'm calling it. I don't know.
Sounds like a bye week, like we're taking
half
a day
month
off.
or whatever. 2 weeks
Sounds
of
like we're
Marvel.
taking a week off.
Razzle's 2 weeks of Marvel madness.
Ooh, I like that. Razzle's 2 weeks of Marvel madness. Marvel at our madness. I'm going to say bye. Thanks for listening. I'm terrible. Bye, guys. Hodor, 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 Hodor. You want to say your names now? That would...
How would we know to say our name?
I don't know. Just say it.
Alan.
And Ryan.
Hodor, 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 Hodor. Okay, so that was the intro. What do you think?